Hello, Asheville. It is great to be back. I'd like to thank all the phenomenal guest hosts who kept my seat warm while I was wherever I was. Maria Bamford, Andy Richter, Louis Vertel, Larry Wilmore, Matt Rogers, Ian Carmel, Adam Rippon, Langston Kerman, Jared Goldstein, and Guy Branum. It is only because Kendra and the team were able to line up such an amazing group of guest hosts that I could abscond and still come back to this. So thank you. And they did an amazing job. They really did. And also the team likes them more than me. You know, I could see it in their faces. It's like, oh my God, we're dealing with this again? But first, let's get into it. What a week. RFK Jr. has repeatedly claimed that he's made it to enough statewide ballots to qualify for next week's presidential debate, and he threatened to sue CNN for not letting him participate. Buddy, you can't just sue your way onto TV. If you could, I'd be on TV. This would be TV. Of course, the Washington Post checked with state election officials and found that Kennedy's full of shit and doesn't actually appear on several ballots that he claims to. Evidence is mounting in support of my theory that his brainworm is alive and well and controlling his actions Ratatouille style. All right, I'll admit it. It's not my theory, it's my brainworm's theory. Noam Chomsky's wife this week insisted that her husband is still alive after Jacobin and the New Statesman published obituaries for the linguists and activists. Dead Noam Chomsky furiously living. Grammatically makes sense, but does it have meaning? That did much better than I thought it would. Asheville. What bubble? Chomsky is 95 years old and has been in the hospital in Brazil recovering from a massive stroke he had a year ago. That's the story they're telling us anyway. But when you see Chomsky next time, the only thing that will be massive is that BBL. And in case he dies between the recording and release of this episode, R.I.P. Noam Chomsky, sorry about your botched BBL. Speaking of bloated asses, Roger Stone was secretly recorded laying out the steps Republicans will take to challenge the 2024 election results if Trump loses. His most diabolical plan involves a tactic that some experts have taken to calling lying. Activist reporters Lauren Windsor and Ali Samarco posed as MAGA freaks at a Catholics for Trump event in March at Mar-a-Lago and recorded Stone saying that Trump's team was more prepared this time around with a plan that would involve lawyers, judges, technology. Okay, well, less of a plan, more of a notes app grocery list, but still. By the way, this is the same journalist who went undercover to record Martha Ann Alito. Lauren Windsor is journalism's noble Borat. And I, for one, think it's very nice. All right. I couldn't get through it. I did it. I did it. Stone said this about preventing voter fraud.
In some states, it'll be easier to stop them. In other places, it won't. But at least this time, when they do it, you have a lawyer and a judge whose phone number standing by so you can stop it. We made no preparations last time. None.
Look, I don't love the sound of this, but I also can't imagine there are too many people who actually pick up the phone when Roger Stone calls. It's like, I have Tommy's number, but what does that mean in practice? You know? Could there be a rift between conservatives on the Supreme Court? Justice Amy Coney Barrett and Justice Clarence Thomas is split on the meaning of originalism in a case involving a trademark dispute. That case concerned a T-shirt mocking Trump's dick size, which the justices ruled unanimously could not be trademarked. A tough blow to the Crooked Store. But we gave it our best shot. Here's where it gets juicy. In a concurring opinion, Barrett wrote that Thomas's approach of relying purely on history was wrong twice over. Ooh. Doesn't seem like much, but she threw a glass of Chardonnay at Thomas while she said it. This has important implications for United States v. Rahimi. At stake is whether the court will uphold a federal law that prohibits domestic abusers from owning guns. As Politico noted, Barrett's concurrence marks the first time there's ever been an opinion backed by 4 women on the Supreme Court without any men joining in. And sure, Amy is clearly the Charlotte, but perhaps a positive sign nonetheless. Anyway, the liberals see an opening. Kagan and Sotomayor are trying to get Barrett to join for their Sunday schwitz at the JCC pool. Speaking of people sweating, this week the outgoing CEO of Boeing testified before the Senate about the plane manufacturer's dysfunctional corporate culture. Hard to imagine a less friendly audience than a bunch of politicians who fly commercial back to their home state every time the Senate goes on recess, which is roughly every 3 hours. During the hearing, CEO David Calhoun admitted Boeing intimidated whistleblowers, saying, "I know it happens." Pretty nice wife you got there. Would be a shame if she went thwoop. Which is the sound a wife makes when she gets sucked out of a window on one of our planes, which doesn't happen. Thwoop. Thwoop. Senator Richard Blumenthal, who chairs the committee, said the committee had more than a dozen whistleblowers and he encouraged more to come forward. Added Blumenthal, and hey, maybe take the train when you come down to testify. The Senate revealed that one whistleblower came forward to OSHA just last week accusing the company of mishandling and losing hundreds of damaged or defective parts at its plant in Washington. We actually have the undercover footage of the planes being manufactured at that facility. Senate Republicans this week blocked a bill to ban bump stocks, which allow a shooter to fire bullets from a semi-automatic rifle as if it were a machine gun. Obviously, this is incredibly disturbing. Nobody's present anymore. We're all rushing through life, not taking a moment to savor it. You're shooting as quickly as possible. Slow down. Appreciate each pull of the trigger. Reminder, the Las Vegas shooter used semi-automatic rifles with bump stocks when he murdered 60 people and injured hundreds after firing more than 1,000 rounds into the crowd in 10 minutes, with the bump stocks making it possible to fire as many as 90 rounds in 10 seconds. And now Clarence Thomas has dictated via a perverse reading of the law that you need to live in fear of these weapons, even though machine guns remain illegal, and Republicans who were fine with this Trump-era ban won't pass a bill to stop it. So the bill was doomed, but Senate Democrats were right to try. After all, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take unless you have a bump stock, because then the extra bullets kind of really do the work for you. Meanwhile, the House Ethics Committee issued a rare public statement about its investigation of Matt Gaetz, confirming that it has spoken with more than a dozen witnesses and issued 25 subpoenas, and that it will continue to investigate allegations of sexual misconduct, drug use, and obstruction. The committee usually doesn't share details about ongoing investigations, so I appreciate that they're not gatekeeping. On Wednesday, a witness allegedly told the committee that a payment gate center was specifically for sex. Now, personally, I would have taken that to the grave. The grave is this fabulous cocktail bar where I go to gossip about every secret that I have. California Governor Gavin Newsom said this week that he'd like to implement more restrictions on kids' use of smartphones during the school day, citing Surgeon General Vivek Murthy's call for a warning label on social media. Said Newsom, when children and teens are in school, they should be focused on their studies, not their screens. Hear, hear. There's plenty of time after school to respond to texts from Matt Gaetz. Now for my favorite story of the week. For months, on end, almost every day, a Democratic lawmaker from Vermont would emerge from a committee room and find that the tote bag he'd hung up in the hallway was soaking wet. Now, not to blame the victim here, but why exactly did he keep leaving it there? After that happens to your bag twice, don't you decide to not leave it there again? right? But okay, the Democrat Jim Carroll set up a hidden video camera, and his suspicions about the culprit were proven correct, because GOP State Representative Mary Morrissey was repeatedly dumping water in his bag. And here's the footage. I've been saying this. We need more women bullies. And just like that, she's on Trump's VP shortlist. Morrissey publicly apologized on the Vermont House floor on Monday, saying, "I'm truly ashamed for my actions." And look, some people won't believe that you can be genuinely ashamed of something you did day after day for months. But other people have the Panda Express app on their phones. And we know it's possible. Morrissey didn't offer any explanation, but she reportedly said last week, "Quite honestly, I don't know why I did it. I was not meaning to hurt Jim. It was something very out of character for me, and I'm ashamed of myself." Was not meaning to hurt Jim. The plot fucking thickens. This woman had an insistent demon on her shoulder whispering, "Soak the bag," every day for months. And she's just as confused as we are. A better answer would be, "Hey, maybe I'm a bitch, so what?" In response to her apology, Carroll told his colleagues that he felt she was sincere, but said, "For 5 months, I went through this," adding, "It was torment." But then again, why do you keep leaving your bag there? I can't stop thinking about this story. This middle-aged Republican woman was just the Joker. Two climate protesters were arrested Wednesday for spraying orange powder paint on the ancient Stonehenge monument. And believe me, if I wasn't so busy with this tour, I would be out there protesting the Bronze Age right there with them. I think we can all agree the real climate change villains are Van Gogh and the Bell Beaker people. I tell ya, the response on fucking the sleeping idea wakes furiously and fucking Bell Beaker people, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Somebody sprays orange paint on Stonehenge, and then everyone's like, "Well, that's stupid." And then they're like, "Well, you know what's radical, what they're doing to the climate?" It's like, well, yeah. And then I think, well, are those climate activists as gung-ho about Joe Biden as they should be? No. And even though the most important decision probably for planet Earth, in if not just the next year, but the next decade, is whether or not Joe Biden is elected or Donald Trump is elected. That it's a hinge point for fucking humanity, but the very people that focus and think about climate change the most have found it in some way, it's like not, you can't admit that that's the case. Why not? Now I want to fucking paint Stonehenge. That's what kind of a neo-lib shill I am. I'll paint Stonehenge, and I'll put Biden 2024 on it. He's not as old as these rocks. And that's something. A historic building in the ancient Italian city of Matera was damaged by a group of London tourists from the parkour group Team Fat, with one member trying to do a parkour stunt off the building and breaking off a stone ledge. Have some respect for history. If you're going to do parkour, do it in 2005. And finally, it's time for a little segment we're calling America's Least Wanted. Nice. Since we're here in beautiful North Carolina, we'd spotlight one of your hometown GOP psychos, Republican nominee for governor, current lieutenant governor. It's Mark Robinson. Sounds like the crowd knows who he is. But for those who may not be familiar, Mark Robinson answers the question, what if your divorced and furious uncle's most offensive Thanksgiving dinner comments became a person? And ran for governor. Not but 7 years ago, Robinson was just a regular guy working at an office furniture company, posting Holocaust denialism on Facebook and spouting off about how the movie Black Panther was a ploy by Jews to take money from black people. Simpler times. But all that changed when Robinson got so mad that the Greenboro City Council was considering canceling a gun show after a horrific shooting and made an angry little speech that went viral on conservative social media. I remember when being a rising star used to mean something in this country. That you made a sex tape, or you sold the rights to your memoir that later turned out to be fictional, or your dad was famous, or you bought the patent to a diabetes medicine and hiked the price, or you were really hot and could kind of sing. But not anymore. Flash forward, and disgraced former President Donald Trump was pretty slow to endorse Robinson in the GOP gubernatorial primary, but when he did, just days before the election, Trump called Robinson Martin Luther King on steroids. I'm just imagining an absolutely jacked Martin Luther King, and you know what? Trump may be onto something. I bet he would have looked cool. Let's take a look. Where are the pants? Where are the pants? Robinson is also very homophobic, having called gays and theys maggots, flies, and filth. And that's obviously disgusting. This is pride, and you don't get to call me a sloppy little pig boy until we've established a safe word. And surprise, Mark Robinson is on record saying he'd ban abortion for any reason. Quote, "It makes no difference to me why or how that child ended up in that womb. And the important thing is how you, Mark Robinson, a strange man, feel about it." Robinson also recently accused the Washington Post of being a Democrat smear machine, churning out hit pieces just because the Post asked him to comment on some of his previous statements. Now, I can relate to this as someone who talks on a mic for a living. It's important to never take accountability for anything you've ever said. So, if you want to prevent this Looney Tune from becoming the highest-ranking elected official in North Carolina who would wield enormous power, and to stop other radical, extreme Republicans from taking power in this state, go to votesaveamerica.com/2024 to learn more, and dear God, let's do everything we can between now and Election Day.